It always starts the same way. Someone walks into your life and instantly pulls you in, magnetic, charming, almost too perfect. They know exactly what to say, how to look at you, how to make you feel seen in a way no one else ever has. But then, the cracks appear. The compliments start to feel scripted, their confidence turns into control, and instead of lifting you, they slowly drain the life out of you. Is this just confidence gone too far, or are you face to face with a narcissist? Spotting narcissism early is not easy. Narcissists are masters of disguise, blending charm with subtle manipulation. They thrive on pulling people in, making you feel special, and then slowly twisting that connection into something that serves only them. Most people don't see it until they are already entangled. That's why understanding the early warning signs is so critical. If you can recognize the patterns before they sink their hooks into you, you can protect yourself from months, years, or even decades of emotional chaos. The first sign is an almost overwhelming sense of charisma. Narcissists know how to perform. They know how to be funny, how to flatter, how to make you feel like you're the only one in the room. But the key difference between genuine warmth and narcissistic charm is intensity. When it feels too fast, too much, too soon, that's a red flag. They may shower you with compliments, gifts, or attention, but the energy is less about you and more about them, creating a bond they can later control. It's called love bombing, and it's one of the classic strategies of a narcissist. Another early sign is their obsession with appearances. Narcissists are deeply invested in how the world perceives them. They may constantly talk about achievements, status, or people they know, subtly reminding you of how important they are. It might feel like name-dropping, boasting, or exaggerating successes, but to them, it's about survival. Their fragile sense of self depends on being seen as superior. If you notice that conversations always drift back to them, their image, or how others perceive them, you may be seeing the mask of narcissism in action. But it's not just vanity. Pay attention to how they treat the people around them. A narcissist may be polite and attentive to those they want to impress, but dismissive, cold, or even cruel to those they consider beneath them. Watch closely. Do they speak differently to a waiter than to a boss? Do they show kindness only when it benefits them? This double standard is not a coincidence. It's a window into their worldview, one where people are tools to be used rather than souls to be respected. One of the most dangerous signs is how they handle boundaries. Early in a relationship, whether romantic, professional, or even a friendship, a narcissist may push past your limits in subtle ways. They may press you for information you're not ready to share, tease you in ways that feel uncomfortable, or invade your personal space while framing it as affection. At first, it can seem minor, even playful. But over time, the small violations build into larger ones. They test how much they can get away with, and if you let it slide, they learn that your boundaries are negotiable. Another critical warning sign is their reaction to criticism, even the smallest kind. A true narcissist cannot handle being wrong. If you point out a mistake, they might laugh it off, deflect, or blame someone else. If you press the issue, you may trigger sudden anger, defensiveness, or even silent treatment. The overreaction comes from their fragile ego. Beneath their polished surface lies a deep insecurity, and any hint of being exposed threatens the carefully constructed image they present to the world. Pay attention also to the way they listen, or rather, how they don't. Narcissists may appear attentive, but soon you realize the conversation always circles back to them. When you share something meaningful, they might interrupt with their own story, diminish your experience, or redirect the attention. Over time, you may start to feel invisible, like your voice doesn't matter. That's not an accident. It's the gradual erosion of your sense of self, replaced with the constant centering of theirs. Control is another telltale sign, though at first, it rarely looks like control. It might come across as suggestions, preferences, or just looking out for you. They may say things like, "You should wear this," or "You don't need to spend time with those people," framed as advice. But underneath, it's about molding your behavior to align with their needs. Slowly, your choices shrink while their influence grows. If you find yourself justifying why you're doing things differently to keep the peace or to avoid conflict, you may already be under their spell. But perhaps one of the clearest early signs is the cycle of idealization and devaluation. At first, you're placed on a pedestal. They admire you, they praise you, they tell you you're unlike anyone they've ever met. But soon, the tone shifts. They criticize, nitpick, or withdraw affection, leaving you confused. Did you do something wrong? Did you change? No. What changed is their perception. Because for a narcissist, relationships are not built on mutual respect, but on control and supply. Once they feel you're hooked, the devaluation begins. Recognizing these signs is not about labeling everyone who has flaws as a narcissist. We all have moments of self-centeredness, vanity, or defensiveness. What sets a narcissist apart is the consistency, the pattern that emerges again and again. They build relationships like traps, baited with charm but designed to ensnare. If you feel drained, confused, or constantly second-guessing yourself around someone, that's a signal worth listening to. Your intuition is often the first defense against manipulation, even before your mind can name it. The danger with narcissists is not just their behavior, but the way they make you doubt your reality. They are skilled at what psychologists call gaslighting, the subtle twisting of truth until you begin questioning your memory, judgment, and even sanity. You may find yourself apologizing for things you never did, or justifying things that felt wrong to you in the moment, but later became blurred in their retelling. This erosion of self-trust is one of the earliest but most destructive signs of narcissistic influence. Narcissists also carry a sense of superiority that seeps into every interaction. It can be disguised as confidence at first, which is often what makes them attractive. But if you listen closely, you'll hear the contempt they hold for others, just below the surface. They dismiss other people's achievements, belittle opinions that don't match their own, and always seem to know better. Over time, their mask of charm cracks, and what is revealed is not self-assurance, but arrogance rooted in insecurity. Another warning sign is their inability to celebrate your joy. You might expect that someone close to you would cheer for your accomplishments, support your breakthroughs, or stand beside you when you rise. But narcissists often respond with indifference, subtle competition, or even sabotage. If your success threatens the fragile pedestal they have built for themselves, they may find ways to minimize your achievements or shift attention back onto their importance. Pay attention, also, to how they handle vulnerability. When you share your fears, insecurities, or weaknesses, a narcissist may use those very confessions against you later. They collect emotional ammunition, not to connect with you, but to maintain control. In healthy relationships, openness builds trust. In narcissistic relationships, openness becomes a liability. Early on, you may notice that conversations with them often feel one-sided. They love to talk about themselves, their plans, their dreams, their grievances, but rarely show genuine curiosity about your inner world. If you do speak, they may listen briefly, only to redirect the topic back to themselves. This pattern of self-centeredness is not just a quirk, but a defining feature of narcissism. The inability to truly recognize another person as equal in depth, worth, and importance. A particularly insidious tactic is the cycle of idealization and devaluation. At first, you are elevated, admired, and even placed on a pedestal. This is the stage where you feel special, chosen, uniquely understood. But gradually, the tone shifts. Criticism replaces praise. Coldness replaces warmth. You are no longer adored, but picked apart for your flaws. This cycle keeps you emotionally hooked, always chasing the high of that initial admiration, always blaming yourself for its absence. The truth is, the shift says more about their instability than about your worth. You may also sense a profound lack of empathy. Empathy is the ability to feel with someone, to share in their pain and joy. Narcissists, however, struggle to genuinely step into another person's emotional world. When you are hurting, they might dismiss it as weakness. When you are grieving, they might grow impatient. When you are in need, they may offer help only if it benefits their image. This absence of empathy is not just coldness. It is a fundamental barrier to authentic connection. But here is the crucial part. Narcissists often cloak these red flags beneath layers of charisma, intelligence, or even apparent kindness. They can seem generous, but their generosity often comes with strings attached. They can seem vulnerable, but their vulnerability is usually a tool for eliciting sympathy. They can seem inspiring, but their inspiration often demands admiration rather than shared growth. Recognizing the warning signs means learning to look past appearances into the patterns of behavior that reveal their true nature. So, how can you protect yourself? The first step is awareness. Naming what you're experiencing strips it of some of its power. When you notice gaslighting, you can anchor yourself by writing down your version of events, keeping a journal, or confiding in someone you trust. When you notice the erosion of your self-worth, you can remind yourself that their criticisms are more about them than about you. Awareness creates a buffer between their manipulation and your inner truth. The second step is boundaries. Narcissists test boundaries constantly because boundaries threaten their control. They may ignore your requests, overstep your limits, or pressure you into things you don't want to do. But by holding firm, you remind yourself that you have the right to protect your energy and space. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors that you control. They define where you end and another person begins. The third step is detachment from their approval. Narcissists thrive when you depend on their validation because it gives them leverage over your self-esteem. The moment you begin to ground your worth in something deeper, your values, your growth, your inner compass, you loosen their grip. Their praise may still feel intoxicating, but you will no longer need it to feel whole. And finally, remember this. Not every person who is self-absorbed or difficult is a narcissist. Narcissism exists on a spectrum, and true narcissistic personality disorder is more complex than a list of traits. But the patterns we've explored, lack of empathy, manipulation, gaslighting, arrogance, and cycles of idealization and devaluation, are powerful clues that you should tread carefully. Your well-being is too important to be placed in the hands of someone who cannot truly honor it. So ask yourself, have you seen these early warning signs in someone close to you? Have you noticed the subtle shifts in how they treat you, the way they bend reality, or the way they drain your light instead of nourishing it? These are not small details to overlook. They are signals pointing you toward a choice. The choice to protect your clarity, your boundaries, and your self-respect. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "You may fetter my leg, but my will, not even Zeus himself, can overpower." In the same way, a narcissist may try to confine you within their web of control, but your will, your clarity, and your awareness remain yours to guard. Do not underestimate the quiet power of simply saying no, of walking away, or of choosing relationships that elevate rather than diminish you. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever suspected that someone in your life might be a narcissist? What warning signs did you notice first, and how did you respond? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know your experiences and insights, because your story might help someone else recognize the truth. And if this video gave you clarity or strength, give it a like to help it reach more people, and subscribe for more deep dives into psychology and the human mind. Your awareness, your insight, and your growth are your greatest tools of protection. Guard them well, and remember, you deserve relationships that honor the best in you, not ones that consume it.